All right. Yo, what's up, guys? We're back. We're doing another breakdown predictions video. This one, we got a special one. I got Dan Levy from Half the Battle here on the show. And I'm excited for this one, man. I feel like this is a long overdue collab here. I've been watching you forever, man. I remember watching you back in the day with Shaq. Now you're just doing the show solo or with other people. And yeah, man. So definitely excited to break it down with you. And this is a good week, man. I mean, we got football later today, NFL starting Sunday, and this pay-per-view. So what are you thinking about UFC 292 or
Uh,
293?
I'm pumped, man. Thanks for having me. I mean, always excited for fights on a Saturday night. So, yeah, let's get down to business and hopefully we can find a way to make some money.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, did you actually stay up and see that the press conference and all that, or are you just waiting for the fights?
I mean, I didn't stay up because it was at like 4 a.m., but I
Yeah.
definitely, watched it, you know, early, like a little bit after. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, man, it's always fun to watch the press conference and the build up, especially for a fight like this. But yeah, let's just get into this first fight of the night right quick. I'll let you go first with Kevin Jousset. He's taking on Kiefer Crosby here.
Yeah, Kevin Jousset, he's a French guy that moved to Australia. He's got a judo background, nice judo throws, nice trips. He's fought some good competition. He fought Jack Della, even sent Jack Della for a ride with one of those judo throws. Kind of on the stiffer and slower side as far as the striking is concerned. Does have decent leg kicks. And then Kiefer Crosby, kind of, I describe him as like a poor man's Mike Perry. He's got the exact build as Mike Perry. He's going to swing heavy, hellacious bombs, but he's a better hammer than a nail. So if Kevin Jousset can extend this and start to use that judo background, I think that he should pull away as the fight progresses.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like early on, I think Crosby, he's going to be a lot more explosive, faster, and just the better striker. I think you said it's a little stiff, like you said, even though he did move to city kickboxing. And I do think his striking is looking a little bit better. Like his kicks look a little bit better every fight. But I do think Crosby early on will have a chance to knock him out. He's been fighting in like some weird promotions though recently. Like he did fight Cowboy Oliveira, but obviously Cowboy, he got cut from the UFC at this point. And then his last one, he fought that boxing match against Aaron Chalmers and Kingpin. So I'm not sure how much that helped him and why he got signed from the UFC off that. But 33 is coming in here. He had that Bellator run. And I feel like it's like 50-50 fight almost. So I'm just going to go with Crosby as the underdog. But yeah, I do agree. I feel like early on, it's going to be Crosby's fight to win. And then if it gets extended, I think it could get a little bit dicey, especially if it becomes kind of a clinch fest, like you said. So it's a interesting fight. Two guys that are debuting, and I don't really feel like either guy is going to make like a huge impact in the UFC. I don't know about you, but should be a decent fight to open the card there.
Yeah,
But
definitely. I mean, I kind of wish they did Kiefer Crosby versus Blood Diamond and Jousset versus Charles Radke, but Sean and Mick know what they're doing. So who am I to say?
yeah, Kiefer Crosby versus Blood Diamond. That would be pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, this next fight, Shane Young versus Gabriel Miranda. I'm not a big fan of this fight. I mean, I always like to fade Shane Young, but watching Gabriel Miranda, it's hard for me to kind of justify betting on Gabriel Miranda here, even at the dog odds. But man, I'm surprised to see Shane Young getting so much, like almost up to minus 200. I think that's kind of crazy. But Gabriel Miranda, I mean, I feel like he's a big guy for the weight. He's going to be dropping down from 145. So I guess we're going to see how he looks on the scales and all that. But his striking to me is like really rudimentary. He has the nice left hook. He'll brawl, but he seems like he has no head movement. He'll walk straight into punches. And then he has good jujitsu. Like you could tell, I think 15 of 16 wins are submissions, but he doesn't really have the best wrestling to get it to the ground. A lot of guard pulling or sloppy takedowns. It doesn't seem like he has the best top pressure either, the top control. So he kind of tries to bait guys to go in his guard and then he could submit him, it seems like. And I don't know if Shane Young is going to fall for that. I feel like on the feet, he's going to have the advantage and his takedown defense is probably good enough. So I'm going to take a risk and go Shane Young, even though he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He is at home. And I'm just not sure Gabriel Miranda is UFC level, but what do you think about this one?
Yeah, in 20 pro fights, Shane Young's never been submitted. In fact, when he made his debut against Alexander Volkanovski, of all people, I bet the under 2.5, thinking there's no way this guy lasts all three with Volk, and he lasted all three with Volk. And like I said, never been submitted in 20 pro fights. He is kind of slowing down, and he's known for his toughness and his durability. And when people are known for that, that means that they get hit a lot. This guy does get hit a lot, but historically speaking, Miranda, he's got 15 wins via submission, but he's 0-4 when fights go to decision. So if Shane can weather this early storm, get it to the second and third rounds, I think he should take over. We're just not exactly sure how Miranda is going to perform at the UFC level yet. So the jury's out, but I'll pick Shane Young to take over down the stretch.
Yeah, it's always kind of tough to pick a guy like Shane Young, but I feel like this one you almost have to pick him here. And this is another fight where it's like, man, even though Blood Diamond's on a losing streak, I see a lot of people picking him, and I see, I think there's some merit to it. So I'll let you go first on this one and tell me what you think about this matchup right here.
Yeah, look, when Chuck Buffalo, Charles Radke got signed to the UFC, people were saying this is the next big prospect. So I was excited to watch the tape, and I was very underwhelmed. I mean, he is kind of athletic, but he's on the slower side, which is kind of like almost like a contradiction in a way. But I mean, like, he's built like a good athlete. It's just back to kind of like the Jousset talk. The striking is on the stiffer side. But I have seen him go out there and out grapple people. But I've also seen this guy get out grappled. I've also seen him get knocked out before. And with Blood Diamond, he's one of these guys that he comes into the UFC with that kickboxing background. But obviously, as you know, kickboxers, they don't know how to fight on the mat. But he's been gone for over a year. He's been training with the right people, with Vulcan crew and with the city kickboxing guys. So hopefully, in the year off that he's had, he's been able to level up a little bit, because there's certain things you can fix and there's certain things you can't fix. You can't fix a shot chin and, stuff like that, but you can fix, your grappling. You can fix getting up from bottom. Your takedown defense can improve. So hopefully for his sake, it has improved. But until I see that, I'm going to have to pick against them. So I'm going to pick the newcomer, but not interested at a price like this.
Yeah, I feel like you had a great breakdown with that. When you look at Blood Diamond, like you said, he has that really good striking background, but I don't know, like his striking hasn't seemed to translate the greatest MMA. Like he doesn't seem like his kicks are kind of weird. Like he'll throw a lot of kicks in punching range, and I feel like he tends to allow guys to clinch him and get close to him way too easily. And his takedown defense has gotten better, but seems like his grappling is still really bad. Like from what we've seen, he always gives his back. He's does nothing off bottom really whatsoever. So I feel like Radke, he has shown decent enough grappling. It's just I don't know if he can actually get Blood Diamond to the ground. He used to fight at 55. Blood Diamond's definitely going to be the bigger guy in there. So I think it's kind of a fight where Radke is going to probably go all out for like 6 or 7 minutes trying to submit him. And if he can't do it, I think maybe Blood Diamond could come back in the later half of the round and get the finish or win like a ugly decision. But like you said, until I see Blood Diamond be able to kind of stop the wrestling, the grappling, I got to kind of go against them. So I'm actually going to say Radke gets the first round rear naked choke here in this fight. So that's kind of, but to me, I think the under would be way better than picking either side, just because Radke, I think he's kind of unproven. And then with Blood Diamond, it's like you can't really trust him either. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with that one. But yeah, this next fight too, man, it's like this is that we got a huge favor with Nasrat Haqparast. He's taking on Landon Quinones. And even though it's a short notice fight for Quinones, I'm kind of surprised the UFC decided to give him a contract here, because he got finished by Jason Knight on The Ultimate Fighter recently in like 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I don't necessarily see Quinones as UFC level. I'm not sold on him yet. Haqparast, this is going to be his 10th fight in the UFC, and we know kind of his style. He's southpaw, he has fast hands and decent wrestling. He doesn't really use his wrestling offensively, but he kind of walks you down and then eventually starts getting his boxing going. And Quinones is like a slick striker. Like he'll go body head with the straight punches, and he likes to use the double, but I don't really think his grappling is going to be good enough to kind of out grapple guys at UFC level. And I question his chin, and I think his defense is not the best. And I just don't think he's ready for this step up here. So I got to go with Haqparast. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I gotta go Haqparast and maybe via experience and all that. Quinones does have a good win outside the UFC. Beat Yemi Oduwale, who I actually trained with earlier today. But when I watched that fight, I was kind of shocked because like that didn't look like Yemi in there. I don't know if the weight cut got to him. I don't know if he was partying the week of. You know, the guy's very popular with the ladies, but yeah, but at the end of the day, that was still a good win on his resume. So I got to give him credit. And then people holding the Jason Knight fight against him, I think that's kind of dumb because it's like, what is Nasrat going to triangle choke someone? I highly doubt it. But that being said, you got to go with the experience and the dues paid of Nasrat Haqparast for sure. And he's a big favorite for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about? Would you trust hack press that number in like a parlay or something, or no?
I'm not betting him personally.
All right. Yeah, this next fight we got Jamie Mullarkey versus John Makdessi, and kind of interesting fight. I'll let you go first on this one here.
Yeah, John Makdessi, I've been hit and miss with, throughout the years, as far as from a betting perspective is concerned. I've missed, against Mehdi Baghdad back in the day, missed against Ignacio recently, but I've also been right, against Yancy Medeiros back in the day and against Francisco Trinaldo more recently. Makdessi is one of these guys that he's too small for 55, but too big for 45. He's had multiple broken jaws. Now he's really getting up there in age. And then Mullarkey, he's going to be the bigger, younger, higher pace guy here. It's just that he's got a suspect chin and he's coming off a knockout and the price sucks. So, but if this is a fight where Mullarkey, he's not too hesitant, he's not gun shy because he's coming off a knockout loss and he can push the pace, which he's known to do, I think he can break Makdessi. But if it's like a slow paced fight, then Makdessi might be live. But I'm passing at the price. Pick is Mullarkey.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like the price is way off. I mean, Mullarkey, like you said, that wasn't even a lot long ago. He got knocked out 3 months ago, and I guess he probably really wanted to fight in Australia. So maybe that's why he decided to come back so fast. But that's really short layoff for that type of finish that he took against Naimov. But Makdessi, like you said, it's kind of like he has that traditional martial arts style and wants to kind of point fight you from the outside. Even though sometimes you'll turn up on guys like you said, the Bahamundes fight, it's like he was through like 250 strikes in that fight. It was he went off in that one. But I feel like Mullarkey, if this is like a slow pace striking fight, like you said, it's going to be really close. But I think Mullarkey will have that ability to push the pace. I've never really seen him timid in fights, even though he just got knocked out. I'm gonna, trust that he keeps that same game plan that he usually has. And I think that even though Makdessi has really good takedown defense percentage in the UFC, we have seen Mullarkey kind of start mixing in the takedowns. And if he could surprise Makdessi and get a couple of takedowns, I think it could be the difference in kind of a closer fight if it does end up being kind of close. So I'm going to go with Mullarkey. Like you said, he's younger. And if he didn't have that knockout loss to Naimov, he definitely would have been fighting like a top 15 guy. He was going to fight Kuta Taladze before that loss. So yeah, this is hopefully a good bounce back fight for Mullarkey. This is also the 20th UFC fight for John Makdessi. So shout out to him for making it to 20 UFC fights. That's not that many people could say that, but I'm going to go with Mullarkey on this one. And I'll say he actually wins via decision. And then this next fight, man, I'm excited for this one. This is probably going to be a pretty crazy fight. Anytime you got Jose Chepe Mariscal going in there, he always ends up making it a barn burner usually. And Jack Jenkins, he is more of a technical striker. He likes to kind of use his Muay Thai, the leg kicks and counter striking. And then he actually has pretty good takedowns. He has good body locks, good top control, which I think is underrated. But he's coming off that fight with Jamal Emmers, where a lot of people thought he lost, but he ended up getting the win in that one. Even though I think Jamal Emmers is an underrated fighter as well. I think he's athletic, good wrestler, and he can push the pace with the striking too. So I think that was still a decent performance from Jenkins. But with Mariscal, I do think it's kind of a step down. It's just, I feel mentally Mariscal's the type of guy where even if he's outgunned skill-wise or technically, he could sometimes win the fight or make it a really close fight just by just turning it into a complete dogfight. So it's going to be interesting. But I feel like I watched a couple of Mariscal's fights where he fought against kickers, and it seemed like he really struggled to close the distance and deal with guys that could kick. And then I watched this fight where he fought Sean Soriano, where Sean Soriano, like historically in the UFC, is known for getting out wrestled, getting submitted, and he's never won a UFC fight. And he was able to, use his distance striking, then get Mariscal to kind of chase him like he likes to do sometimes and brawl, and took him down, controlled him from the top position. So I could see Jenkins doing that too. I see a lot of people thinking Mariscal maybe can use the wrestling on Jenkins, but I kind of think it might be the other way, where Jenkins gets a takedown or two and just uses Mariscal's aggression against him to hit a body lock, and then just kind of grinds it out from the top position, maybe in that third round or in the later rounds if he needs to. But I'm going to go with Jenkins, and I'm going to say that he wins a clear decision here.
Yeah, listen, people talk about Jenkins' leg kicks, but they don't put enough emphasis on it. I mean, he's broken 3 guys' tibias that he's fought against, not to mention good hands as well, wrestling, offensively, defensively. The fight with Jamal Emmers, I mean, he was a plus 180 dog, and he went to a split decision, so clearly he was the right side there. And I thought the first 2 rounds could have went either way. I thought the third round was clearly Emmers, but I thought the first 2 could have gone either way, but that's a completely different matchup than Mariscal. Mariscal is more of a brawler. He's exciting, paid his dues outside the UFC, but he's been slept his fair share of times, and not just, TKOs, brutal knockouts. Look at that Brito fight. And one thing that often doesn't get talked about with Jack Jenkins, because everyone's so focused on his leg kicks, is the guy's got some very good defense as well. He is very hard to hit clean. And the times that he has been hit, takes it really well, but he's rolling with the punches. His parrying game is on point. He can check kicks as well. His distance is there. And he just seems like a thinking man's fighter. So while I think the first round can be close, I think as soon as Jack Jenkins starts to find his range, that's where he's going to take over this fight. And whether it's a knockout or a decision, I do see Jack Jenkins getting it done.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of people picking Mariscal this week. I was kind of surprised by that, but hopefully we're right on that one. But yeah, this next fight, I'll let you go first on this one with Carlos Ulberg. He's taking on Woon Jung here, and it's probably going to be a fun striking fight with this one.
It might be. Here's why I say that. I mean, I hope it's a fun striking fight because I love fun striking fights, but the reason that I'm kind of worried is they're both counter strikers. So when you look at Carlos Ulberg's last few knockouts, these guys have been charging at him. Nikolai Negumereanu charged at him. Ihor Petraria charged at him. But then you watch that fight against Sharon, and Sharon's got, lower output than Tyron Woodley. And, this guy Ulberg isn't going to take any unnecessary risks. He wants you to come after him. But if you don't come after him, then he doesn't mind having a slower paced fight. And Woon Jung is kind of the same thing. He's a counter striker as well. So when you get 2 counter strikers in there might be a lot of feeling out. There might be a lot of staring, and eventually someone's going to have to say, fuck it. The reason the line is where it is because one guy's on a big knockout streak and the other guy's on a losing streak. Right. But prior to that losing streak, and even let's talk about the difference in the Jacoby fight and in the Clark fight for Woon Jung. So the Jacoby fight, I thought that was a 50-50 fight until Jacoby landed the finishing blow. It's not like Jacoby was whooping his ass and then he knocked him out. They were going tit for tat, and Jacoby, caught him. But it wasn't like Jacoby was just like had that, had there not been a knockdown there and that, went all, 5 minutes for that first round, it was 50-50, right? But the Devin Clark fight, Devin just pinned him up against the fence, which is not something that Carlos is going to do. So I don't give a shit about the Devin fight. I mean, in terms of his prospects being a future top 5 guy, I care because you can't be losing to Devin Clark. But in terms of using that fight to handicap this one, I think it's irrelevant. So, yeah, I do lean with Ulberg. I think the momentum's on his side. I think he's got a nasty check hook. Good kicks as well. But Woon Jung is a big step up from Ihor Petraria, Fabio Sharon, and some of these other guys that Ulberg's been facing. And back to the dynamic of 2 counter strikers, there might be a lot of, feeling out in this fight. But ultimately, I will go with Ulberg.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it's a dog or pass. Honestly, I don't like the line for Ulberg at all. But I just, with Jung, we've seen him get knocked out multiple times. Even though Ulberg did get KO'd against Kennedy, I just trust his chin a little bit more and trust kind of his kind of defensive awareness. I feel like if one guy kind of breaks first from their game plan, I think it might be Jung. So that's the only reason why. But I do think if like you said, if they both just play that technical striking game over 15 minutes, it could end up being a toss up. And if you have Jung on the money line, it might be a decent bet there because the fight could be really close. But I'm going to say Jung kind of ends up making a mistake and Ulberg makes him pay for it and knocks him out. So I'm gonna go with Ulberg in that one, but I'm not like super confident on that. And then this next fighter here, Anton Turkalj, he's gonna be taking on Tyson Pedro, and I usually always like to fade Tyson Pedro at all costs. Like his last fight with Bukauskas, made some decent money on that fight, but this fight, man, I see a lot of people taking the shot on Turkalj, but I just can't get myself to do it. I feel like honestly the over is the best play on this fight because you're looking at it. I mean, I think Pedro has a chance to knock him out in the first round for sure, finish him in the first round like he has all of his wins. But if he doesn't get him out of there in the first round, I don't really see a lot of finishing upside on the Turkalj side. I think his striking is kind of like he could get a fluke KO with one of those spinning back fists, or if he comes in with a flurry, but doesn't really have like a technical striking game to speak of. And his wrestling is decent. He pushes the pace, but seems like his grappling is not good whatsoever. Like he loses position. I would be surprised to see him submit Pedro. I don't think it's going to happen. So I feel like if Turkalj wins, it'll be like a sloppy grind fest against the cage, maybe a couple takedowns and mat returns, and Pedro just totally gassing out. Or if Pedro wins, I could even see him winning his first decision, just Turkalj losing position and then Pedro laying on him in a round after winning the first, or getting that first round finish. But yeah, I'm not sold on Turkalj getting the win in this one, and I agree with it kind of being a pick 'em here. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest part about Turkalj is his nickname, man. I mean, the fighting skills, he's not athletic. I've never been impressed with him. I guess the best part of his game is his toughness, and his cardio. I think that's about it. And those are things that have plagued Tyson in the past, right? So with Tyson, he's, never won a fight that's gone past the first round. Not saying that can't change. And also, word on the street, he was very sick for that last fight. But then again, talk is cheap, and that ain't the first time that he's pulled a stunt past the first round. So, that's neither here nor there. But I could see a situation like, you remember that Ange Lusa versus Reese McKee fight last week? How like Ange Lusa beat the living shit out of him, but like gassed out from beating the shit out of him. And then round 3, Reese McKee is still there and gave Ange Lusa better as a sweat. At the end of that third round. I see this being a similar thing. I like Tyson Pedro is probably going to get off on this guy, but he might gas out from getting off, right? And then at that point, if Turkalj is still there in that third round, that's where it can kind of be a sweat. So I think it's either going to be Tyson Pedro wins early, or Tyson Pedro wins, like the first 7.5 minutes, and then Anton wins, the next half, and it could go either way on the cards. But I'm going to pick Tyson Pedro here.
Yeah, that fight to me. It's like, I don't know why it's the main card fight on the UFC pay-per-view, but man, it should be fun to watch. It'll probably be a crazy fight. But yeah, Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane. We got a rematch here, even though we only saw 30 seconds in the first fight. But what do you think about this one?
I mean, listen, it sucks for Lane because last time was on his home turf, literally in Jacksonville. This guy's a former Jacksonville Jaguar, and he poked the dude in the eye, and Buddy couldn't continue. Now he's got to fly over to Tafa's turf halfway across the world. He's going to be the one dealing with the jet lag. Tafa's got kind of that Mark Hunt style. We're going to talk about that with Tuivasa too. Big leg kicks, big leaping left hook off the clinch, breaks off with big elbows. He's getting some more seasoning, some more experience in the octagon because he came into the UFC like only 3-0. So he's been paying his dues. He's been growing up. And Lane, very athletic guy, tall for the weight class, but he's been dropped on multiple occasions, not just in that Hardy fight, but outside the UFC as well. So, I mean, it just depends at what range this fight is fought at, but ultimately I'm going to pick Justin Tafa to find the chin and get a knockout. But I think it's a dogger pass situation.
Yeah, I mean, you watched the first fight, all we saw were like 3 body kicks from Lane, and that was it. So basically, it's like what you said. If he's at that kicking range, he's going to be successful. He's probably going to be able to land strikes and be mobile. But I just don't know how long he's going to be able to do that before he gets caught. I don't really trust Lane to be moving and being active for 15 minutes, at a kicking range and being able to avoid forward pressure from Tafa. And I don't necessarily see him unless he can land a big kick or something really clean knocking Tafa out. The guy's super durable, and Lane isn't really someone that has that one-shot striking power, even at heavyweight. We have seen Lane wrestle certain guys, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to go that type of game plan with someone like Tafa, even though Tafa's not really a great wrestler or grappler. I just don't think he's done that against really low-level guys. I don't know if he'll be able to do it even against someone like Tafa. So ultimately, I just think Tafa's probably going to be able to get on the inside and find his chin, in the first round or the second round and get him out of there. But yeah, I do think it's a dog or pass. And if Lane can kind of use his size and clinch him a little bit, we've seen how Tafa will get really, really tired. And I do think Lane has the cardio advantage. I don't know if like you said, the jet lag and flying over to Australia, if that's going to maybe zap some of Lane's cardio and he won't be able to implement a game plan like that. But I think it would be smart to try to mix in some grappling if you're Lane, because you could get Tafa tired and kind of win that way. But I still think Tafa's probably going to end up finding his chin and knocking him out. So I'm going to go with Tafa in that one. And then this next one, man, I'm excited for this fight. We got Manel Kape, he's had some trouble getting fights with top guys. It seems like he either pulls out or they pull out on him, and he hasn't been able to really get that fight that he should have gotten. So this one, he was going to fight Kaikara France. And what do you think about the whole thing with him and Kaikara today at the press conference?
Yeah, it was entertaining. It was entertaining. I mean, it was fun to watch. It's neither here nor there in terms of how I feel about this fight, but it was, it was good. He's star boy. Like, he puts on a show.
So you're not worried about Kape like not being focused on Dos Santos or something? You think that's just kind of like his personality all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fight game is very mental, and I like to pride myself on knowing when guys are pulling stunts, like when Jay Perrin fought Rosas or when Aljamain fought Sean, and just based on certain things that they're saying, like Jay Perrin, saying all these people can't fight for you, and and talking about how the kid hasn't earned anything, and Aljo talking about how the UFC gave this man everything, like they're coming from a place of bitterness, where Manel wasn't coming from a place of bitterness. Manel was just calling out Kai for backing out the fight. That was all.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like Manel, he's always talking shit too, so I'm not really too worried about it. But I will say, I mean, I was impressed with Felipe Dos Santos, man. I mean, he's another one of these shoot box guys. And one thing whenever you see these guys is they're going to be extremely tough and durable, man. They're going to come and they're going to bring a war. And that's exactly what Dos Santos does. And we did see him. I mean, I think Kape is a way better version of his last opponent, but he fought an opponent his last fight in Paiva that I've watched fight before and is a really good boxer. I mean, the guy closes distance, he attacks the body, attacks the head, and kind of throws a lot of similar boxing combinations that Manel Kape throws. And Dos Santos ate a lot of heavy shots in that fight. He ate a lot of big body shots, but man, I mean, he stuck in there. He was returning with a lot of shots of his own, and then ended up breaking the guy. And I feel like Dos Santos, he doesn't necessarily have the grappling acumen of some of the other people that were training with him at Shootbox, but you do see him start to mix in some doubles. Like, he was shooting doubles in that fight. I'd never really seen him go for takedowns before that fight. And he's only like 21 or 22 years old. So every time you see him, he's probably going to bring a new wrinkle, a new element. And I was pretty impressed, but man, I mean, to come in here, take on Manel Kape on short notice like this, I think it's going to be a tough one. I mean, like I said, I saw his last fight where he did get lit up quite a few times with similar combos that Manel likes to throw. And Manel's a bigger, more explosive, faster version of the last guy that he was fighting. And I also think if this does like being a war where it's real tough on the feet for Manel, I think he can take Dos Santos down and control him on top and kind of win the fight that way too. But I am going to say Manel actually gets him out of there in the second round, just because I think Dos Santos is going to be down to really brawl in there. And I think Kape's just going to end up getting him out of there. But I think it'll be a really fun fight. And I think Dos Santos is definitely going to make some noise in the UFC.
Yeah, 100%. Dos Santos has a bright future, big balls to take this fight. I respect everything about him. Like you said, he's got the shooter box style, walk straight forward. And, Manel is a guy who, when he came into the UFC, he was in a similar situation. They put him right in there with Pantoja. And that fight with Pantoja wasn't a matter of, Manel needed to work on his takedown defense, or he needed to, fix these glaring holes. It was just really about Manel kind of feels himself a bit, and sometimes he thinks that he's ahead when he's not, and the output can kind of be on the lower side. But when he lets his stuff go, I mean, I think he's got the fastest hands in the division, some of the most powerful hands in the division. I think his ground game has improved astronomically since his days in Japan, and I think that he's ready to make a title run. And the whole thing about him being inactive in fights, well, that's because guys like Dvorak were running away from him. This kid Felipe, like you said, is going to get right in your face. So that's going to give Manel every single opening he needs. And I'm predicting a body shot KO. I even laid this price straight at minus 340. Reason being, minus 340 implies that it's less than 8. Then he's less than 80% to win. And I line him 83 to 88% to win. I line him minus 500 to minus 750. So I actually didn't have an issue laying the 340 straight based off that.
Yeah, that should be a fun one though. I'm excited for it because I do think that Dos Santos is going to come and bring the type of fight that you want to see on a main card. So it should be a fun one. But I agree. I think Kape's going to end up actually getting him out of there. But this next fight, I'll let you go first on this one with Tuivasa versus Alexander Volkov. We got the hometown guy, and he's going to be taking on a tough guy. He's the underdog here. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, great fight. Great fight. Tai Tuivasa, another guy who kind of has that Mark Hunt style, shorter for the weight class, massive leg kicks, big left hooks, elbows, uppercuts, the whole ordeal. He's experienced. He's knocked out guys that have knocked out Volkov, right? Not, I know that's MMA math, but just saying. And Volkov, tallest man, not just in the division, but I believe in the UFC as well. So, Volkov, he's going to need to fight long, obviously. He's going to need to use those teeps to the gut, kind of like Cyril Gane did. Speaking of Gane, Tuivasa is the only man in UFC history to drop Gane. Francis Ngannou did not drop Gane. Tuivasa did. So Tuivasa is always live for a knockout. I don't think either guy's going to look to grapple, but if one guy did have grappling upside, it would be Volkov. I think he's got more ways to win, but I'm not counting out the possibilities, the prospects of Tuivasa, landing that big knockout here, and then, having a fan throw a shoe and him doing a shoey off the top of the cage and all that. And I'd like that to happen. I'd be rooting for that outcome. Nothing against Volkov. Both these guys, kind of changed things around. Volkov did this camp in Vegas, did all his strength and conditioning there. Tuivasa came back to Australia. He was doing the last few in Abu Dhabi. So I'm excited to see this fight, but I'm going to lean with Volkov, but I think it's a dog or pass situation as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fight where I'm really excited for this one. I feel like you said, it's going to be a battle of just similar fight to what we talked about earlier. I can't remember the Tafa fight, where it's going to be just that range battle where Volkov can keep it at range with the teeps, with the straight punches, with the jabs. He could probably piece Tuivasa up, and obviously Tuivasa, he's coming off 2 knockout losses in a row, and Volkov's coming off 2 wins in a row. So he's got a little bit of momentum on his side there, but I don't really think that matters too much, especially at heavyweight, especially when you got a guy that can end the fight with one punch like Tai Tuivasa. And Volkov, I feel like he's not going to grapple in this one, and Tuivasa is going to always have that ability to catch him and knock him out. Like you said, we've seen him drop Cyril Gane before, and I saw the line, it's gotten up to like where he's over a 2-1 underdog at this point. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, we've seen Volkov knocked out by Derek Lewis, who, like you said, Tai Tuivasa knocked out Derek Lewis. And I don't think Tuivasa doesn't really have the size of Lewis, or maybe not even that explosiveness, but they both are going to be throwing the same strikes and trying to knock him out the same way. Big overhands, big hooks, throwing heavy. And I feel like Tuivasa, 2-1 underdog. He's at home. He's in Australia. And like you said, the crowd's going to be on his side. So I'm going to be rooting for the shoey to happen. I'm actually going to go with Tuivasa and put a bet on him. So that's one bet I'll give you guys. So I did bet on Tuivasa at like plus 205 or something like that. So, I mean, I think that line is way off. I would line it like maybe at max, like Tuivasa, like plus 150. So I think that's a decent bet there. And I'm going to go with Tuivasa. So hopefully he can get the job done. But yeah, Volkov's the favorite for a reason, but I'm just going to hopefully think that Tuivasa can land that shot and get him out of there. But ultimately, we got the main event now. We got Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. And so first off, what do you think? You think Sean Strickland delivered on the press conference? I see like mixed reviews. Like some people are saying they thought he wasn't as good as, what they thought was going to happen. And the other people are saying, he destroyed Izzy. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was entertained. I mean, especially compared to some of these other past press conferences where, it's just awful. And at least, they were asking decent questions. So yeah, I'd no complaints.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I mean, I think it's funny how Israel's kind of playing it up. He's going to wear the red and all that. So, but yeah, I'll go into this one first. We got Israel. He's going to be taking on Sean. And yeah, I feel like, you know, I think people are kind of disrespecting Sean in a way in this fight, but I still agree with the line. So it's like, I don't think that he's just going to go out there and he's just going to get knocked out like a bum, like right away. Like I see a lot of people thinking that, but Strickland, I mean, the guy's got really good defense. He has, if he can get into boxing range and kind of make it more of a war, he's going to have certain success, I feel like. But it's just, I don't know if he's going to be willing to do that. I feel like he might start early and be very aggressive, but I think Israel's going to kind of settle him down with some strikes. And I don't buy into the narrative where Sean's going to start to grapple all of a sudden. I just don't see it happening whatsoever. I mean, maybe he could, on the off chance, like catch a kick and get on top, like somehow early on that way or something. But I think it's like very unlikely. And but I don't think he's going to get knocked out. Honestly, I really feel like it's going to go 25 minutes in this fight. I think that early on, Izzy might land some big strikes, but I think ultimately Sean's going to, end up going back into that defensive type of style that he likes to use. And I think Israel was just kind of pepper him, and it'll turn into kind of like that inactive type of fight that we've seen from Izzy with Jared Cannonier or Yoel or other guys, where he knows he can kind of coast and get the win. And I don't necessarily think there's like a lot of venom on either side. Like I think they're kind of just building up the fight. And I don't think Izzy is going to go in there with a chip on his shoulder to think he has to get a finish or fight emotional. So I'm not necessarily thinking that Izzy's going to go out there and really push the pace or do something different than we've usually seen. So I think it's going to be a decision win for Izzy in this one. And maybe Sean will win like one round, but I think he'll do better than people think, to be honest. But I'm going to go with Izzy to get the win.
I'm gonna go by knockout. I think that Sean leaves way too many openings for a guy like Izzy. I think that he walks in a straight line, he backs up in a straight line, he doesn't cut off the cage properly to pin, Adesanya against the fence, kind of like when Kelvin had success in that fight, or when Pereira had success. So I also think that with Sean Strickland's parrying style, he kind of swats a little bit, he kind of over parries at times, and he might block the first two or three. But if Izzy's throwing in long combinations, I think that fourth, fifth, or sixth is going to be there. I also think Sean stands heavy on those legs because he's got that boxing for MMA style. I think the leg kicks are going to be there to chop him down. I think it's a potential head kick knockout. I think the hands are also a possibility for Izzy. And then people talking about Sean wrestling, like, what does that even mean? Like, that's such a broad question. It's like, is he gonna, when you say, is Sean gonna wrestle? Like, does that mean he's gonna wrestle for a round? Does that mean he's gonna wrestle for 2 rounds? Does that mean he's gonna embrace the grind for 25 minutes straight, which is not what Sean does? So yeah, I mean, and also it's not like Izzy's some novice on the mat. So I think Izzy's gonna outclass him and eventually knock him out.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Sean, so maybe I'm kind of thinking with more rose-colored glasses, but I do feel like
I'm a fan too. It's just the matchup.
No, yeah, I got you. But yeah, man, so that'll be an interesting main event. I like the whole fight card. I feel like it's kind of a weaker pay-per-view, but I think there'll be some finishes, and I think it'll be entertaining. So besides that, man, you want to tell them where they could find you and anything else?
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me. I really, really do appreciate it, man. My Twitter's Best Fight Picks. My podcast is called Half the Battle. My YouTube channel is also called Half the Battle. So just type in Half the Battle everywhere you find your content and you'll find me. And I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we can do this again. So really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, and have fun watching.